If we weren't living in a COVID lockdown nation just now, then I'm sure many of you would have at least started to make a start on writing out your Christmas gift lists, started shopping, writing cards, even polishing off the instruments and the carol books, and maybe catching the first glimpses of Christmas adverts. Now, while some of those things might still be true, with only 6 weeks to go, we do still know that Christmas will indeed be different for us all this year. Maybe just different to what we would normally anticipate. Many things that would usually be quite certain are actually quite questionable this year. Can we visit family or have family to visit? How many people can come for dinner? Will we be able to collect and carol? Well, I've got to be honest and say that many of those things come as a huge frustration to me because I like to be organised and have everything planned down to the last detail. I usually start writing my Christmas list in August, but this year, who knows? However, I have appreciated the beauty in that of letting go and letting God. And with Advent on the horizon, I hope that that can be true for you too. Never is there a more apt thing to remember at this time of year than the reality that Jesus will always operate in a way that we cannot anticipate. God has always been full of surprises, so we shouldn't come to expect anything different, really, should we? So with this in mind, you might find it surprising on the build up to Advent that we're actually considering a parable this week that is taught by Jesus during Holy Week. However, through this, we do actually find ourselves in a very similar position to the Jewish leaders at this time of year, because we are all preparing for the coming of the Messiah. The parable of the tenants is the second in a group of three, which challenges the Jewish leaders of the day, for they have rejected Jesus and are therefore going to miss out on the kingdom of God. It speaks of a landowner who plants a vineyard, and he protects the vineyard with the wall and the watchtower to keep it safe from thieves and to protect it in the long run. And he also digs a winepress which will allow it to be fruitful and effective where it is. He then allows tenants to work in the vineyard to allow a smooth operation so that he can go elsewhere and set up. When it comes to harvest time, courtesy would have allowed the landowner to collect some of his crop. However, the tenants have no intention in letting the landowner back in. They attack and even kill all of those who the landowner sends. Eventually, the landowner sends his own son, for surely the tenants would respect him, but they don't. They see an opportunity to take over entirely, and they kill him for their own gain. Now, the tenants sound absolutely horrible, and rightly so. It is deemed that when the landowner returns, he should throw them out and ensure justice before bringing in new tenants who will work for the landowner and produce fruit for his kingdom. This parable then draws direct links to Isaiah chapter 5 and the vineyard that belongs to God. In the Old Testament, the vineyard produces no good fruit and is therefore at risk of destruction. Now, this would have been well known to the Jewish leaders that Jesus was speaking to. Jesus also speaks about the workers in the vineyard mistreating the landowner's servants and son. And by the end of the parable, the penny drops, and the Jewish leaders realise that Jesus is accusing them of being like the tenants by rejecting him as God's son. Now, it doesn't take too much deduction with this parable, especially considering the timing of Holy Week, to understand that Jesus is speaking about himself as the son who is to be killed by the tenants. Now, I don't know about you, but when I consider the son of the landowner coming to the vineyard, I would have thought that the tenants would have rolled out the red carpet, been on their best behaviour, and would want to have shown off how fruitful they had been as tenants whilst the owner had been away. However, that could not be further from the reality. Now, whilst this does remain a story that Jesus told, that reality was actually very much true. Those who were part of the priesthood, who'd been given responsibility over the temple and the place where God dwelled, completely rejected the Son of God when he came. And why? Well, because they'd become so set in their own ways, so driven by their own sense of superiority, and so precious over the power that they held over the people, that when the Messiah came, that very Messiah that they were waiting for, he wasn't a welcomed guest, but a threat to their establishment. Now, we of course read this passage through a post-resurrection, we know who the Son of God is lens. However, that warning still cuts deep to me, and I hope that it does for you too. We should never become so precious about our routines, our established order or routine program that we miss out on the kingdom of God. We should never be too busy looking for what we think is coming that we miss out on what is already amongst us. We are all awaiting the birth of Jesus at this time of year, and in the coming weeks we'll be prompted to think about what it is that we are waiting for. But in this time of change and in the unknown, let's not forget to keep our eyes on Jesus. We've already established then that the Jewish leaders were well aware that Jesus was speaking about them when he was speaking to the tenants who had rejected the Son. And however, if any of them were slow to figure it out, verse 42 pretty much spells it out for them. This verse references Psalm 118 verses 22, which speaks of a rejected stone becoming the cornerstone of the temple. Jesus is that rejected stone that is about to come the most important part of the temple of the Jewish faith. This reference speaks of Jesus as the eternal hope that the Jewish people are waiting for, and yet they've completely rejected it. Jesus is the faithful Son of God, and our faithfulness as children of God completely depends on our response to him. He is our cornerstone, the centre of our faith and our hope. As we read in Hebrews 12 verse 2, Jesus is the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of God. Now, if only the Jewish leaders would have grasped hold of that truth, the tenants would have welcomed the Son in as a VIP. And so today I ask you, have you made Jesus the centre of your hope and faith? Have you given him VIP status in your own life? Finally, this parable gives stark warning to those who mismanage the vineyard, or in other terms, that which they have been given to care for and produce fruit from. This also brings a challenge to us today. For us Christians, Salvationists, followers of Jesus, however you like to identify, we are responsible for spreading the good news of God and sharing the reason for the hope that we have. If we do not share the gift of salvation with others, then we hold on to that gift for ourselves and we don't allow it to bear fruit in our lives. That means that whilst we wouldn't be looking to kill the Son as the vineyard tenants did, we will find that we mismanage the vineyard too. My mind goes straight away to 1 Peter 3 verse 15, by which we are reminded to always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks for the reason for the hope that we have. And so in these coming weeks, as we approach Advent and the Christmas festivities begin, albeit in different ways, you might find that you are asked to give a reason for your hope. Are you prepared to give an answer? And so in response to these thoughts today, my prayer for each of you as we approach Advent and beyond is that you will keep your eyes on Jesus, that you will make him central to all that you do, and that you will live your life in such a way that people are prompted to ask you for the reason for the hope that you have. And that as you respond with your reason, you do so with gentleness and love, revealing the light and love of God that our world so desperately needs to see in these dark days. Now, if you can already think what your reason is for the hope that you have, I do invite you to share that with someone today, whether in person or on social media, or attach it to this video. May God bless you today.